Hello, and welcome to another weekly update. Unusual way to start, I know. I'll tell you why in a minute. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about this week. First of all, I want to talk about Microsoft Whiteboard. And why do I want to talk about Microsoft Whiteboard? Well, let me move some things around on my screen, and then hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm seeing. So, what's this? This is Microsoft Whiteboard. Why is it interesting? Well, it's new for one thing, and it is the new way of, there you go, kind of collaborating. There's been a whiteboard around for a while, but this is a new one. It's available everywhere. There's an app for it. It's going to be in Teams. It's going to be on mobile. You can do external sharing. You can do all sorts of really interesting things with it. As you can see, I can be on a laptop all the way over here, completely different device. And it's got all those kind of standard whiteboard features that you might find interesting. It's got templating, it's got all sorts of things. So I wanted to quickly show it, but really what I'll do is show you the blog post that goes alongside it, because that's way more interesting. And so let me find you that. And that's what we're going to kind of kick off this week with. So kind of an odd start to the week, but this one, the Microsoft Whiteboard. Why talk about the Microsoft Whiteboard? Well, I know I like to cover development type things when I'm doing this weekly update, but sometimes there's things that are important for everybody, including developers, and this is kind of one of them. This isn't like a development platform piece as such. I don't know, as far as I'm aware, there isn't a big development play with the Microsoft Whiteboard, and there's not loads of integration options or anything like that. But actually, what's really interesting is that this is how developers work right now. Like right now, everyone's at home. People are starting to come into the office, but developers are definitely not pair programming side by side in cubicles at the moment. So actually, technology like this is super useful to developers. So if you're a developer, whether or not you're a Teams platform developer or not, or you know developers or you have developers on staff, using something like this can really help with collaboration. Whiteboarding, obviously, but also all sorts of things, code reviews, just kind of working through to-do lists, whatever else it is, doing retros, anything like that. This is a kind of a great way of doing that. There are templates as well, so you can do like a Kanban template if you want to. There's all sorts of there's integrations obviously with 365 and with Teams, as you might expect. So lots of interesting things happening with what's being called the new Microsoft Whiteboard. So that's what I wanted to kind of kick off with first of all this week, kind of talking about the whiteboard stuff, because I thought it was really interesting and exciting. So that's the first thing. Next thing to talk about, this is a bit more developer focused and really is talking about the Assignments API. So this is for developers who currently use the Assignments API for Microsoft Graph or are holding off doing so because they're waiting for it to become GA. It has now become GA, so it is now a thing you can use. And it's more for education tenants, really. So if you're not aware, there's an entire side to Microsoft Teams that is all to do with education, and completely changes the look and feel of Teams, really, and adds all sorts of other features that normal users, if you like, regular users of Microsoft Teams don't have around assignments and homework and marking and assessments and all that sort of stuff. And there's an entire API called the Assignments API to drive some of that and to facilitate integration with other products. So if any of that sounds interesting, you'll be happy to know that the Assignments API is now GA. So if you're holding off using it because you've been waiting for it to be ready to go into production, it's your lucky day. It is now in production, so that's all good. Let's move on to something else, and this is for developers. Again, another blog post. This one is by Jamie Maguire, and he is a fellow MVP in the cognitive services space. So I'll show you his blog post, which is all about using natural language. So I've talked about this before, and I've talked about Q&A Maker as a really nice way for developers to quickly scrape structured data like frequently asked questions or question answer pairs that you might have in a document, and build a knowledge base that you can then wrap a bot around and get nice question and answer type kind of bot thing going on. What Jamie's blog post is about is can you do that when you've got unstructured data? So you've just got like a big body of text that is not split into handy question answer pairs like you might want it to be. What if it's not like that at all and it's just a complete body of text? And actually this blog post walks through, and there's a video as well that Jamie's done, walking through doing that using a new feature called custom question answering, which is basically you can throw a whole load of unstructured data and then query it using a natural language query. So super interesting and might be exactly what you're looking for. This is one of those things where you kind of you think you knew what the problem, like what the solution was to a problem, and then you go down the road and you realize that actually the data is all unstructured and not structured, and now you're completely stuck because you don't know what to do now because all the tools you thought you could have in Q&A Maker and everything don't work. Well, actually, this could get you out of that hole. So definitely worth checking out if you're doing anything with Q&A Maker and you're struggling to get it to understand your question pairs or the data you've got isn't great and is not well structured. Then definitely worth checking out. Next thing to talk about is a blog post from the Microsoft team all about hybrid work innovations. And again, this is not particularly developer focused, but I'm including it because I think it's relevant to everyone right now. And it's kind of all to do with like hybrid workplace. And we've talked a bit about hybrid workplace. It was a real focus of Build that's just happened. And so there's lots of updates that Microsoft are bringing out to support this model of some people being in the office and some people being at home, and figuring out what that feels like and what that looks like as we all kind of carry on working. Some of this is new, some of this is not new, but it's worth just taking the time to understand either what's coming or what's here now. Some of it is going to require expensive bespoke hardware, like this picture here. Some of it is not. Some of it is just going to come to Teams natively anyway, so the better layouts. And here's the whiteboard again. Some audience view stuff that makes it more immersive and kind of engaging. So that stuff will come anyway, so that's good to see. And then there's some more stuff around kind of collaboration. This is good. This was announced at Build, but without any real detail. So it's good to start to see some worked examples like in this animation here around some of the fluid components that we know are coming into Teams. So that's really good to see as well. And then some Viva Insights stuff as well. Again, this has been coming for a little while, so we've got some more detail about that that's kind of coming really soon, I think. So all in all, like, it's a whole bunch of things that are either here now, or they're coming to meeting room experiences, or they're coming to how you run meetings and how you attend meetings. So definitely worth staying on top of, even though none of them are really developer focused as such. But right now, actually, they affect us all because we're all doing this kind of working at home, and hybrid working scenarios kind of affect us all right now. Okay, let's switch gears to something that is sort of developer focused, but not actually Teams developer focused, and that is Visual Studio. And there are some new Visual Studio updates, and this is kind of confusing to me anyway. But I guess it sort of makes sense. So let's do the first one first. So there's a new update, a preview of Visual Studio 2019, which is, okay, bear with me, 2019 16.11 preview 2. That's available as of a few days ago. And it's also going to be the last version of Visual Studio 2019. So it's going to be supported. This version, this 16.11 that they're currently in preview on, is going to be the final version and will be supported until April 2029. And yeah, so if you're using Visual Studio 2019, this is the latest version and update to that. Why is this confusing? Well, I think it's confusing because alongside this, literally 2 days later, was an announcement about Visual Studio 2022, 64-bit public preview 1. So also Visual Studio, but a very different branch. The 22 edition yeah, and it's also 64-bit, which sounds great. Well, it sounds great if you have very large projects. And so if you're bouncing off the limit of 4 gig of memory, then this will definitely unlock you and make your life happier. There's a whole bunch of other things as well. Some code UI enhancements for like new fonts and some theming and icons and stuff like that. I don't know if anyone's old enough to remember the hoo-ha when they went all capitals on the menu bar. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that. Anyway, so depending on what version of Visual Studio you are currently using and what version of Visual Studio you would like to use, you should either go and check out this preview, or you should go and check out this preview, or you should wait for both previews to become GA. That is also 100% an option. I would say don't run the previews on your production, like the one you use to commit real code for work, maybe. But if you've got a machine at home or a second machine or a VM, then it's good to take the latest and see what's coming and prepare and just figure out if you like it. And if you don't like it, what you can do to get more comfortable with it. That's all worth doing ahead of time. But yeah, so both of those are now available as of yesterday. Okay, and finally, there's one more thing I want to talk about, which is what it is. It's about Skype for Business Online. So I've done a blog post previously, a couple of weeks ago now, talking about what you should do if you're still on Skype for Business Online, how to check that all the development experiences and all of the tooling and the extensions, the CWEs, the UCMA bots, everything that you've got, how to figure out, whether or not you need to move any of that stuff or whether it's going to be okay. So I've done that already. And at the time I was talking about a deadline of July the 31st this year, 2021. And that deadline is still in place. There is still a deadline of July 31st, 2021 for Skype for Business Online. However, it is possible to get that extended. Now, it's not guaranteed that it will be extended, but it is possible to get it extended. So I'm going to cut to a blog post from Tom Arbuthnot, fellow MVP. And in this blog post, he kind of goes through some of this detail about what that means. So the request needs to be approved. So it's not a given. It's not a guarantee. And so, that's worth bearing in mind, that you're not definitely going to get it. And it will extend you to, I'm not quite sure how long it extends you to, actually. I think there's not quite sure. I thought there was a date. Tom doesn't mention it in his blog post. I thought it was maybe a 3-month extension, possibly. Oh, I just didn't scroll down far enough. Here we go. So you can go up to 1, 2, or 3 months as your thing, or you can maybe choose unsure and undecided, but I'm not sure whether that... Oh, here we go. It requests a 3-month extension. So, so you can go and request a 3-month extension to go and do that. I don't know if you're guaranteed to get it. I think it's an application thing, so I guess maybe you're not guaranteed to get it. It's possible you might not get it. So there's that. I mean, by this point, you probably should have a migration plan in place, and if you don't, then I don't know, maybe requesting extension is your only option. But yeah, so anyway, that's worth checking out if you've kept your head in the sand until now and you didn't do anything with my blog post about moving over development resources and development extensions and extensibility from Skype for Business Online. But yeah, that's worth checking out. All right, I think that's everything from me. Kind of a strange update this week. It started off not how I thought it was going to start off. OBS is great. Something happens, and I think it's Windows and I think it's OBS, and it's probably my fault as well because I do tend to switch my screens around a bit without really meaning to. But what happens is that I kind of mix up the feed in OBS, so the screen that I share is the wrong screen, if that makes sense. I've got 2 screens, and one has OBS on it, and the other has whatever it is I need to present. So in this case, it's Tom's blog post that we were just looking at. And somehow that sometimes they get flipped, and I don't realize they get flipped until I go and use it, and that's when I realize that I'm sharing the wrong thing, and that's what happened at the beginning. But never mind. I didn't bother to kind of stop and start because A, it was a live stream, and so that's always messy, and B, like I think you guys know, this is not a professional enterprise, so I think you hopefully let me get away with it a bit. All right, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. I think there's some interesting stuff coming with Windows 11. Again, really just tangentially related to Teams development story. I think there's some interesting stuff to come for Teams development as well. Don't know when, but it just feels like there's been a bit another kind of pause from build, and so there's not loads and loads of announcements spilling out right now, and that often means that maybe the team are working on something and getting something ready to go. So we'll wait and see on that. We've got interesting things happening in the Azure communication space as well. We eagerly await the GA of the Teams interop part. Don't know when that's going to happen, but it's been out in public preview for a while now. Lots going on, and lots of things to kind of consider, and lots of things to get your teeth stuck into as we kind of head into the summer. All right. That's everything. Have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, and I will speak to you again next week.